Done. What's up, Mortgage Coach community? Today, I am interviewing Julian Hebron with TheBasisPoint. What's up, Julian?
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So for everybody watching this, Julian likes to be a little more, I don't want to use the word rehearsed because it's not like he rehearsed, but he likes to do things very well prepared. And I really put him on the spot today and said, hey, we're going to get on a call and we're going to prep and we're going to record because I know it's going to be awesome. So you ready to just go unplug and riff real quick?
Yeah, dude, let's do it.
Okay. So first, we're going to go through some of the articles of TheBasisPoint because I think any modern mortgage advisor that wants their advice to have tangible value, you should be reading TheBasisPoint. Any mortgage executive that wants to be on the cutting edge and an innovator, you really should be reading TheBasisPoint. So, Julian, before we get into a couple of your posts and articles, give us a little sense of who you're writing to, because it's not like you're just writing to mortgage executives. You know, tell us who, when you write these posts, who are you writing them for?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. And hey, everybody. This is Dave and I are late. It's already like mid-Feb, and we usually do this more frequently, but the year got started with a bang. So here we are. But yeah, so TheBasisPoint, just to refresh everybody, as two businesses, it's a consultancy that advises, fintech, real estate, lending companies. And then the media side, which Dave is talking about for years, was targeted at the industry. But in December, this past December, we shifted the voice to speak to the consumer. But because of my background and the team's background now, we're saying, hey, let's speak to the consumer, but in a way that lets professionals like you guys come in and say, hey, man, here's a place where you got to go read about something. It'll be done in a cool, easy to explain way that'll kind of make you laugh and entertain you and tell you some of the things I'm already telling you when you're starting to talk about the shift to a buyer's market or how to do DTI and all these things you spend all day talking about, even some of the bigger trends. And we're now just trying to do that for the consumer, but in a way that makes it super easy and fun for you guys to share the stuff to back up what you're already doing during your consultation.
So anybody who didn't connect the dots, basically this is code that if you want to create a personal brand, you want to create content, you could be reading this and hopefully you'll source it. So if you got it for TheBasisPoint, source TheBasisPoint, even use the articles as part of your content. And occasionally, you could just use TheBasisPoint to get smarter. So Julian, it is February 2019. And what should the mortgage coach loan officer know about in TheBasisPoint? And feel free to share your screen and walk us through a few articles.
Sure. Yeah. And so as Dave said, we're going like freestyle. So I pulled up a couple tabs because I was like, hey, man, we spend a lot of time every day kind of working on the site. So this is just what the site looks like today. We were talking about there was a big thing in the Wall Street Journal about servicing. And, of course, like how many times a day do you have to answer the questions about, hey, my loan got sold, what's going on? I thought it was with you, all that kind of stuff. But we're going to skip over that for now. And I want to sort of jump into the buyer's market stuff because all of the narrative in the mainstream press is always about this fear. So we know existing home sales has come down a little bit. Fine. So, we're still going to sell like, probably 5 million and change homes in 2019. So from where you guys sit in a place where you're dealing with people who are willing to transact, all those national headlines don't mean anything, but they scare people. So what we're trying to do is say, hey, let's have ways to help you explain it. So here's like an example of like, the share of homes sold above list plummeted in the second half of 2018. This is the kind of stuff that's like, this means that it's it's starting to move to buyer's market. So we kind of start with something like this from Zillow, but let's go to one from Redfin that came out yesterday, right? So bidding wars are gone. For anyone that is following a bit more closely, even on like places like Instagram, I'm still trying to hammer this point and give you guys talking points about like, don't make sure your clients aren't focusing on this hysteria that goes in the press about home prices are dropping off. This chart says it all, right? This is major markets but this previous chart that we showed is the national thing. So what do you think happens if homes are going for less than list or at list? It means we're shifting to a buyer's market. The bidding wars are going away. You don't have to have your people be approved for as much, and they're going to be able to get into those homes that they want. So this is a huge deal. So I'm going to pause for a sec, Dave, and see if you have any questions.
And for all you mortgage coach loan officers, this is great leadership to integrate into your realtor lunch and learns, your realtor meetings. And this is a great segue to talk about, hey, let's talk about a move up, or not a move up, but a seller buy down analysis, where you're going to help package a home and give it a unique value prop, because, you know, there's having to be a few change in price. You know, people are having to change the price of their listings. So seller buy down's big, cost of waiting is big. So great article, great leadership. Anything else on this one before we go to the next?
I'm just going to hammer this point because it's even easy for all of us to get caught in these headlines. There's almost no headlines still. I'm astounded in 2019 that are talking about a shift to a buyer's market. That's what we're trying to do, because it's not about that. It's about how things are slowing down. Okay, yes, it's going to slow down. But again, from where we all sit, there's at least 5 million homes that are going to get sold this year that we can do the transactions on. That's always been the perspective of the Basis Point. Let the mainstream media talk about, you know, the national stats. It's all local, and there's still tons of deals out there, millions of them. And this is that main point. One more comment I want to make, shifting to this next one. So another like kind of headline hysteria thing that we noticed was that when this came out from the National Association of Home Builders, this is direct to source data, but nobody ever goes direct to source. They just pair each other's headlines, where it's like, you know, the Q3 to Q4 18 changed from 58% to 53% of the total number of home buyers being first-time buyers. It was like first-time buyers are dropping out of the market. Okay, but let's go back to 2017, and it's actually a steady majority. So when we write a headline, steady majority of first-time home buyers bodes well for the American dream. I am not a cheerleader. I think anyone that knows me knows that, and the editorial sensibility is not trying to do that. It's trying to paint a realistic picture of, if you look at this chart, first-time buyers still control this market, and now we also know that they have their way with sellers. So if you put that together with what we just talked about, it's like, come on. This is pretty easy to sell. All we're trying to do is put it in a position, speaking again to the consumer, that's the voice of the Basis Point, and explaining to them like, hey man, the American dream is still alive, and like, ignore the hysterics, listen to your advisor. All we're trying to do is reflect what you're already telling them, because you know what's going on the ground.
So I think this is incredible leadership. So go to the headline real quick, Julian. So there is a lot of negative news. And then there is some like positive news that's overboard. What Julian brings you and what the Basis Point brings you is practical news. Practical news that is helpful, it's legit. And if you're a mortgage professional, this is just anytime you can meet with a realtor, meet with the buyer, ask them some questions, tailor, you know, like, okay, I know what you want, and now I'm going to teach you something. This is great teaching content. So I'm loving it. And from a mortgage coach perspective, guys, rent versus own, you know, where you can take macroeconomic concepts and then say, hey, family, based off of your beliefs, based off of your micro local market, what does it look like for you? So now you're giving them, you know, you're using macro content and you're driving it into personal content. Guys, that is how you kill it in this market. I love it. Anything to add to this one before we go to the next?
That's a perfect segue to the next, actually. So again, national versus local. Again, for those who know me, not everybody does, but I think a lot of people do. Like, high producing originator for years, local is the only thing that matters. So this is again how we as an org are trying to like go against this national narrative. So when we go to Gen Z, who are ages 4 to 24 right now, this is just our way of having fun with the headlines. But these headlines, speaking to these folks, as we say, are already blowing smoke, right? Because what's happening is this was like Realtor.com, right? Sorry for that quick scroll, but I just needed to double check. But check this out. I'm going to highlight this right here. Dave, can you see the screen okay?
Yeah, no, I can see it.
This is the narrative that Realtor.com is painting, and they're an advocate for the industry. But again, sometimes the folks that are running the editorial team, a lot of their stuff's really good, but this was like an example of one that we felt like needed some clarification, right? So the average Gen Zer would need to save about $500 a month to afford a 20% down payment for the projected median home price on their 30th birthday, right? But guess what? Like, that's predicated on all these things that we know that when you get into DTIs, like there's these national formulas, when people who don't do this business write articles, they don't understand what DTIs you can actually work with. And most importantly, they don't understand what LTVs you can actually work with. I'm preaching the choir here, I get that. But I'm just saying, again, this goes to us being a resource for you and doing it in kind of a fun way, because I won't scroll through this piece, but like, this is where we unpack it and explain DTI, explain what is available from a DTI and an LTV perspective when they're talking to people like you and what you're going to explain to them. All we're doing is packaging in this way where, again, I don't believe we're cheerleading. We're doing this very responsibly, just like you guys all do. We're just trying to bring a media element to it that makes it like a backup for what you guys are doing, right? So Dave, does that help?
So, well, I love this for a couple of reasons, because that's the other thing. I think you do a good job of making mortgages cool. You know, you're having fun, you're bringing out your personality. I am seeing a lot of new loan officers come into this space. I'm not going to mention names, but they're making mortgages cool again. And so totally. I think that's another
like
thing.
My former boss said.
What?
Anthony Shea, man, he's the one that coined that. My former boss is very good with the phraseology. Yeah.
Let's give it to Anthony.
We gotta give a shout to Anthony on that one.
I got it because there was a loan officer at a sales rally and they said it, and I'm like, I like that. So yeah. if you're watching this and you're young, this is just a great resource for you to get super smart. I believe that if I got in the mortgage business, I would be telling my kid, download the Rate Watch app, read it daily. We're talking about 3 to 5 minutes. I would literally be watching a mortgage coach interview, you know, when you're new, daily, even when you're top, weekly. And I'd be reading the Basis Point, you know, and I'd be reading Chrisman's report. But you don't need that much content if you're reading the good stuff. And by the way, if you're, let's just say older, and let's just say you don't feel like you're making mortgages cool again, read the Basis Point, because it will help you know what making mortgage coaches cool again is all about. So
and steal the links and send them to your people. You know, that's our whole point. Yeah. Yep,
steal the links.
And then yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Anything else on this one or another one?
Last note on this, like I said, ages 4 to 24. That's how old Gen Z is in 2019. So you're going to start to see us spend a lot more time. Millennials, you know, are like, they've got 2 kids, like they own homes, like they're starting to kind of mature into their careers and their lives, right? So these now 23, 24-year-olds that are starting to enter the workforce, nobody's really talking about this yet. So you'll start to see us get into this and get to a lot more statistics on that as we move through the year, because they're going to become the next gen. And they are also, you know, even more social native than the younger millennials before them. And that's why I kind of like, you know, building out our team with younger folks as well, because you'll note that these bylines are not just, you know, me who's a Gen Xer, right? So let's keep going. So next quick topic, there's two more. One is on equity. I think it's really important for everyone to understand the state of equity. And then the other one's on a couple big trends. So first, the total amount of tappable equity, this is from Black Knight Financial Services. This is some work that we just did with their director of research, Andy Walden, a couple of weeks ago. And so you can see it's about $6 trillion in tappable equity. They define tappable equity going up to 80 CLTV. So that's just a monster number. It's a record number. The total amount of equity as a whole is at just under 15 trillion, but tappable, according to their definition, going up to 80 CL is like, is not being tapped. And I'm going to flip to the next one and just show you what, yeah. Okay.
That one. I just did an interview with Aaron Coker. I'm going to put a link down below. Top producing branch manager, does over 10 loans a month as a branch manager, manages a great branch that kills it, does 30, 40 units.
He's a stud. Yeah.
Aaron's a stud. And he did 2 mortgage strategies. And I didn't like lead him like, hey, I want you to do mortgage strategies on this. I just said, hey, Aaron, what do you think would be good leadership for the mortgage coach community? And both of them had to do with helping a move-up buyer buy the home of their dreams, get into some type of a temporary mortgage situation, and yet close the loan and then right-size it. One of them was a recast, where it's like, hey, let's buy this home, and then let's recast it. So I'm going to bring clarity and confidence to you about how to access your capital and get your move-up home. And then the other one was where, hey, let's get a credit line, and here's the price and the details of acquisition, and here's the price and payment 4 months later. So I want to make the point right here that there's a lot of equity, there's a lot of move-up opportunities, and this is where the local referral-based mortgage pro, your expertise, kind of understanding these trends, talking to realtors, and coming in and saying, hey, I will create this confidence and clarity for your move-up buyers that no one else can do. So I think this is, I'll let you get to the next piece of content, link down below to that interview.
Yeah. And so this is just part one. Okay. This again, going back to my previous comment, this is the kind of the big macro stat. But the important stuff is like, nobody's tapping into it. Look at this chart.
Oh my gosh.
Just over 1% of tappable equity was withdrawn in Q3, which is the lowest quarterly share in over 4 years. And if you guys can see this thing below, I'm going to highlight it right here. I want to leave the chart up here so you can still see it, but I'll highlight this part. Can you see that, Dave?
I can.
Okay. So credit card usage is rising. These macro stats say credit card balances went up 15 billion. Actually, these numbers were just updated 2 days ago, and this piece was from last week. So we'll update this again in the next couple of days. But credit card balances are up, HELOC balances are down, and 1/3 of people are paying. I think I put this chart in. No, I didn't put it in, but I have a chart, so anyone can ping me on this. There's 1/3 of people paying for home improvements with credit cards, and all of you guys know that the interest on the home improvement is deductible, and yet 1/3 of people are still, so in other words, people are using money. They're just not tapping into their equity for it, and we do have record equity. So I don't care. It's your decision to advise on them and say whether it's a first or a second. All I'm saying is that this opportunity is the opportunity of 2019, right? So, because you've got all this equity. Go ahead, Dave.
So we only got about 2 more minutes, Julian, but here's the homework assignment. If you're a mortgage coach, mortgage professional, I want to see on social media taking this article, bringing light to this for agents with a total cost analysis, some type of a move-up analysis where you're saying, hey, there's this huge market opportunity. I can bring clarity to your move-up buyers. So it's a combination of a rant with an article, and let me show you an example of a family that I brought clarity to. And they, through my expertise in my consulting, I was able to get them off the fence into escrow, either buying a move-up home or at least properly financing their home improvements. So Julian and I want to see some content. Any other advice for you?
The only thing I would add to that, I just scrolled up to the headline so people can see what the headline is, and anyone can feel free to ping me at julian@TheBasisPoint.com. But this is the headline, and it's, you want to talk about a rant. I was writing this and I was like, there's no way this isn't a rant, because it's insanity that people are using credit cards instead of this equity, this record equity that people have, right? Yeah,
I totally agree.
Anyway, I'm happy to get into that with anyone that wants to get into it, because it's the opportunity of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah. So really, and I'm seeing 2 videos. I'm seeing one, don't finance your home improvements with credit cards, rant, and a TCA to show that. And then 2, there's tons of opportunities to move up, get a house without a contingency through creative finance strategies, and put a TCA on it. So you can connect with Julian on Twitter. He loves Instagram. Of course, I do too. So we have that in common. The basis point, pretty straightforward. And if you can't figure out and find the basis point, we're just selecting. You can't read it. Julian, anything else you want to tell people before we wrap this up?
I think that like what we'll do next time is I'll just do teaser 1, teaser 2. We also do big trend stuff. And you and I have done this before. I'm not going to get into this today. I'm just going to show you the headlines. We're still covering the big issues like Opendoor and Amazon. So I will get into that with you next time, and we'll take people through where these big companies are settling in as their housing strategies start to mature. But let's do it next time.
All right. So guys, if you got a takeaway from what we did here, like it, share it with your mortgage friends. If you have some questions or topics that you would like Julian and I to cover on our next interview, let us know in comments below. And Julian, really appreciate you, brother. Thanks for making time for the mortgage community.
Likewise, man.
Take it easy.